You've heard its power and speed. Now experience Blender on Steam.
Hello, welcome everyone, and this time we're going to review the Steam install of Blender. As you can see, I already have it installed. It's very easy. You can search for this application on Blender Steam by its client, and then you can start using it. And once you do that, you start adding hours. Okay, so there are a lot of users who really don't know what kind of preferences they need to configure first time install on their own machine. So that's what we're going to cover today. So let's launch Blender for the very first time, and this is exactly what you get out of the box. Just follow me on the settings that I will be activating so you can have your abilities and speed throughout the space and the interface. So let's just set this spacebar to search, and obviously just leave that as Blender Dark. If you have previous settings, you can load them here, although I will not recommend doing that, but instead I'll clean install. But I'm going to use this one, new settings, and from there you get this screen. These are the application templates. This will launch directly a new interface with that specific workflow in mind. Today we're going to use the general one because we're going to be configuring a lot of things. So let's just go with that general, and then you encounter this. The very first thing I want you to do is to come here to edit, right click on preferences, and then add your own custom shortcut by clicking here. Once you left click there, do not move the mouse. Click, do not move the mouse, and now I'm going to place my own very own shortcut. I want it like Control Alt U. Okay, that's the way I want to call that menu. So right now we have a preference menu popping up with that specific shortcut. The second thing I want you to do is to press N, and then you're going to get these transforms right here. Press G on your keyboard to allow for grab, and then you're going to be moving this. Okay, if you wanted to do it with this, it's okay, doesn't matter. Move the cube, and the very next thing I want you to do is to come here to Object, Apply, and then you're going to come here to All Transformations to Delta. You're going to right click, and then you're going to add to quick favorites. That's what you're going to pick. Again, you're gonna move the cube. You're gonna come here to, by the way, I want you to notice this. I've just moved it on the Z axis, and then I get this. But I want you to come here to Object, Apply, All Transform to Deltas, right click, add to quick favorites, and that's it. From here on, what you're going to do here is like the freeze function on any Autodesk software, where you reset this location. Watch this. How do you access the quick menu access? By pressing Q. When you press Q, you get your quick favorites, and of course you just added All Transform to Deltas. Select it, and now you have frozen your cube. Anything that it's a parameter, you can add to quick favorites. Alright, so delete the cube, we don't want it. The very next thing I want you to do is to come here to Default, and then Save Startup File, okay? This is very important because this is going to be the scene that you're always going to be loading in Blender. So save startup file, yes, I want you to save startup. So in this case, this box was open. So the next time I close and then I open Blender, let's try that. The box is open, see? So whenever you come here to File, Default, Save Startup File, that's the way the entire workspace is going to remain. So there are a lot of things that we're going to change right now to make this optimal. Okay, because I don't want this to get in the way, I don't want this to get in the way. Although you can use it, it's good. But now we're going to configure this. So the active tool, okay, that's a no-no. We don't want that. Press N so it can be hidden. Next thing we want to correct, let's remove them. So just press Ctrl Alt U like we created in our previous step, and with that we're going to come here to viewport. Here on viewport we're going to remove this by changing this to off. So right now it's off, and all of these things you can also switch them off in navigation controls. All right, get that thing out of the way. Perfect. And if you're a developer and you're interested in checking out what the code for the Python commands are, which you somewhere down the line will like to do, activate Python tooltips. So that's good, and that's good. Now let's close that. Next thing I want you to do is to switch this select box to tweak. All right, and that's the very first tool that I want you to use. Also, switch this off. This is a proportional edit tool which you do not want activated. So switch. The very next thing you want to do is to switch from global to local. So now let's go for the shortcuts. If you press 1, you're going to get to the front orthographic view. But you may have noticed that we did a little traveling with the camera. Notice that. Press 1 and then it flies. You noticed that, right? Change that. I think it's a navigation. Smooth view. Here it is. So you don't want that, press 0. There's a setting here for you when you're drawing in the 2D mode. When you press Shift and numpad 4, you're gonna get to roll like this. But these are degrees of rotation that you can change right here. Rotation angle. See that? That's a 15-degree angle, which you can do with Shift numpad 4 or Shift numpad 6. Shift numpad 4 for left roll, Shift numpad 6 for right roll. You don't want that. You want an easier, much slower rotation. 9 degrees works for me, for grease pencil, and for anything that you're going to do in the texture editing mode. Texture painting mode, yes, because you can paint here on Blender. So now I'm going to press 1. This resets to the front orthographic view. And the next thing you want to do is to look through your camera. Okay, so press N again. And now you're going to get some options here when you select your camera. Select your camera, you have some options here, specifically on the View tab. Click on the View tab. And now this is what confuses most of the other software users, because we are used to seeing everything through the camera. Not in Blender. In Blender, you can have your original view outside in perspective mode, and then a special mode, or in this case, your selected camera view. So for that, please select your camera and now press 0 on the numpad. Now you have your camera here. Home, and then that's going to resize completely to fit your 3D view. That's what we want. That's perfect. And the next thing we want to do is make sure to mark this. Lock camera to view. Perfect. Now that you have locked camera to view, you can middle mouse and start moving to rotate around the view. You can shift middle mouse to pan, or you can roll your mouse wheel front, back to zoom in, to zoom out. Or you can also press Control, right mouse click to lasso select anything you want. This is very useful when we're selecting specific objects or specific vertices. Speaking of which, we're going to press Shift A, which is one of the main principal root functions in Blender. If you come here in Blender for the very first time, thank you very much for picking up my channel. You need to know this shortcut. Shift A makes the majority of the functions here in Blender. Anything and everything in the workspaces works almost with Shift A completely. So in our case, I'm going to Shift A and then I'm going to add a mesh monkey. Why? Because I want to show you the second main core thing in the Blender mentality so that you can get your feet up and running. When you have an object selected, you can press Tab, and that is going to get you immediately into edit mode. You have your interactive mode for meshes right here. So depending on what you create inside of Blender, you're going to get different interaction modes. Shift A again, and now I'm going to create a new object data. That's what they are called. New object data, which is a grease pencil object. And then I'm going to select monkey. From that, you can see here in the outline, the name and the icon are very different from one of the mesh. If you come up here where your edit modes are, your interaction modes are, you can click there, and then since this is a grease pencil object, you can draw on it. And if you do, click, you enter a special mode of tools here. Alright, so where do you want to go? You want to go here where this thing is. And this will present to you the layers where you can create your different layers, like if it was a Photoshop file or a Krita file, and then start layering or creating your strokes or fields. And for that, you need to create materials. So you switch down here and you have your materials and strokes and fields. Also, if you notice up here, the top bar will display the same settings, and also you have them right here, wrench icon, and you can specify what kind of pencil or pen brushes you would like to draw. So in this case, I'm going to just draw anything. All right, so that's it. Cool. All right, middle mouse so you can rotate, etc., etc. Let's get out of the draw mode. Again, click here, go back to object mode, which is the top level object data that you can create here in Blender. And you're back here on the selection from the outliner. All right, that was very good and all, but let's delete this, or rather, let's leave them there. And since you're looking through your camera view, and this is clearly visible because of this red thing right here, the second thing you would like to do is to change the end to 5 kilometers, because it happens very often that most users from other softwares bring giant buildings, and you know, this clipping starts to happen. This is horrible. You cannot work like this. See that? It's clipping, but this is a clipping view. So right now we just corrected the view, which is the viewport. And to switch from camera to the viewport, just press 0 on the numpad, and as you can see, we can see 5 kilometers around. That's good, that's perfect, that's what we want. But if we press 0, we go back to the camera perspective automatically, and the camera perspective settings for clipping are over here where the properties live. So first of all, select your camera, and now come here to your camera icon, and this is where all your properties and settings live. So the first thing we want to do is to change the clip end to 5 kilometers as well. 5 kilometers, perfect. Right now it's on meters, so everything you do on centimeters or decimeters will get automatically translated into meters, because that's the default measure system units. So there you have it. Now you have 5 kilometers to look around in your Blender scene. Next thing we want to do with this guy right there is to settle the camera in an appropriate distance so that it will remain always with the least distortion. And I see this too often, many times. Not to blame anyone, but when you're working with your camera, try please to work with a non-deformer lens, because if you're going to work with a wide lens such as 24mm lens, you're going to get some areas stretched. You don't want that. What you want is to work with an 80mm, okay, which has the least distortion, or if you're like me, you're going to set this to 50mm and then press 0 to go to your perspective view, and in perspective view you can change the focal length to 80mm. Why? Because this is the general view, we can say it so, and if you press 0 you're going to get back to 50mm, and that's what you're going to see right here. Also, whenever you have your camera selected and you right click, you're gonna get your pop-up menu for the properties of that object. This is very important because this allows you to change anything and everything quickly on the fly whenever it's selected. So you're gonna get properties, or you can get also options. In our case, we're getting options, so I can change the distance of a field. Okay, right here, I can pick by selecting an object and it will automatically focus on it. I don't want you to get too confused around the camera, but the camera is basically one of the most basic objects you will find here. Therefore, if you want to work with a specifically designed camera, like on your original 3D software, you need to add that as an add-on. Blender has a different camera settings with constraints regarding rigging cameras. And what do I mean by that? Whenever you're working with a viewport camera, it's easy to go from left to right, up and down. But whenever you require more complex shots that, you know, are going to flip your camera or roll your camera, then you're going to have to add more constraints or more settings for your camera to work correctly without any twisting. That's why we have a lot of options here. Anyways, so press again the item tab, all right? And now let's try to set this guy into a nice view like this. I kind of like it like this because it will allow me to create the next object whenever I start my scene. So let's just default save startup file. Yes. Don't save that, all right? Let's try again, launch it. And as you can see, everything is there exactly the way we left it. Don't worry, we don't want this, so just press select it and delete it. And this light, you can also hide it as well. Press this icon and then you're gonna hide it. Also, if you come here to the filters, you can activate the selection icon, the 3D view icon, and also the render icon. So this means it's going to appear on the viewport, and this means it's going to appear on the render, on the final render. If you have this off, it's going to appear on the viewport, but it will not appear on the render. Easy enough. If you want to turn off selection, you can click here. Okay? Easy breezy. So therefore, you cannot select it. All right? If you right click here, you're going to get a pop-up. The actual name of this pop-up is collection. So you can create new collections, name them. You can press F2 and then name this like, I don't know, I'm going to say objects. Objects, buildings. All right, let's go for that. Buildings. And then Shift A, remember that's the key for everything here in Blender. I'm going to select a cube, right? Press G, and now you're going to constrain your axis by pressing Z. And you can see down here on the panel, on the lower part of the screen, there are a lot of instructions for shortcuts that you can use while manipulating your object. So in my case, I restrained or constrained the axis to manipulate the translation, which is in this case Z-axis. So if you can see, I can move left or right, it will not move, just up and down. So that's where I want this thing to be. Now, I've developed an add-on so you can move your pivot point. In Blender, we know this little guy as the origin point. And you can also do it here on Blender manually by coming here to the options right here on the screen, switching on origins. Once you select that, you're going to use your normal manipulation tools. I'm going to press 1, and now I want to translate that origin straight to the base. I have two options, either stamp it to the 3D cursor, or I can just move it manually, which is what I'm doing. Once you finish, come back here to options, uncheck that, and now your origin is right there. But what if you wanted to snap your origin to the base or to the surface or to the face? Do you have those options here? Yes, you do. Let's go back again to the origins, activate that, and now you see that origin right there. And you can activate here your tool, your snapping tool is right here. So if you activate that, whatever you do with the transformations from now on, it will automatically snap to the filter, which is the filter right here. Okay, if you open this, you can see the different ways you can filter select whatever you want to snap to. So in my case, I'm going to select just, I don't know, let's select the edges, just because. Once you select that, that option may have additional settings for you to look around so that you know what you're doing exactly. For example, this one, align rotation to target. Yes, I want that. I definitely want that. And also affect the rotation on this guy. So I'm going to move it up and try to stamp it, or rather snap it into this edge. Let's see what happens. Press 1. I'm going to move it right here. Bam, it snaps, see? Perfect. Now I'm going to go up. Bam, it snapped again. And it's changing its rotation just like we told them to. I think this works. Right there. Okay, I want it like that. Well, you get the basic idea. It's snapped into the edges. All right, so now that we know how to do that, Mr. Schiller, how do I reset this? Because, I want to undo things. Well, basically, yes, you can undo things, and you can also snap them back to reset to the center of the world, which is driven by this little guy called the 3D cursor. So what you want to do is to tell Blender, hey, you know what? Let's just return that origin point back to this guy. So for that, you're going to use the shortcut, or you can come here to Object, Set Origin. This is the origin, right? So we have some options here. And then we're going to tell the origin to the 3D cursor. That's what I want. That's where I want that origin. Bam! And then it stamps itself. And that's like, yeah. And if you notice, this is almost the right way to work with the objects here in 3D space. Like y will be up, in this case y is negative y, so this is like backwards. So what we need to do is to rotate the x all the way over here. You have this annotation tool, so this is very handy whenever you're doing this kind of things. We need to rotate all of this, right? So that's x 180 basically. And where does the annotation tool live? Because if you select it right here, you have the options for the pop-up right here to edit it and manipulate it. Okay, very easy. So I don't want it, so I can just press X and it will be gone. So yeah, where do you manipulate this? Unfortunately, if you use a transform, it will only work for the objects, not for the origin. But for the origin, you can, select rotate and then transform it by hand. And since it's selected, you can do it also by typing directly into the keyboard. For example, R, constrained to the x-axis, and now twist it 180 degrees and type that number 180 degrees here on the numpad and then press enter. 180, enter. All right, enter in the numpad. So you have it, there you have it, right there. Marvelous. You can work with the numpad every time here in Blender. It almost feels like typing anytime and every time. Okay, so that was a basic walk. Let's go for the add-ons. Control-Alt-U. Let's go to the add-ons. These are the add-ons that you must activate. Why don't they come activated by default? Well, who knows? In your case, you want to activate a lot of them. I mean, really. Because this is just Blender Vanilla, nothing else is activated by default unless you, as the user, want it to. Because most people don't use them, that's why, they are available for you to activate. So let's go to Node Wrangler, the first thing. We want to activate everything that says nodes, node range, yes, node presets, yes, and the node wranglers. Basic. And now we need to press F because there is a nice function here which will allow you to fill faces. Let me see, F. Oh, 3D store views, please activate that. Very important for you to save your views. Simplify curves, yes, please. I don't exactly remember how it's called. Oh, here it is, mesh, F2. That's the one that I was looking for. Activate that. That will allow you to automatically press F and then connect and fill facers, vertices, edges in edit mode. This is a precious add-on. Loop tools will help you to build polygonal tools like bridging polygons and stuff. So you need that. Align tools, yes. Self-fracture, well, not if you're not into simulation. Rigify, yes. Please activate that. You know what? Let's just go all the way from the top again. I'll do this much quicker. Without explaining that much. 3D view, 3D navigation, no. Blender kit, no. Measure it. It comes very handy for people who works with measure directly in the viewport. If you want to create a shoe with 12 centimeters of longitude, you can measure it here in the viewport, or for 3D printing as well. It works marvelously. No. Big tracer, no. Curve tools, I think I don't. If you see this warning sign, it means that it's not ready for this or to use as with careful. So let's not activate that by default. Extra objects, no. This is an awesome plugin. I bid you to check it out on the other channels because it's really awesome. Bolt factory, discombobulator, extra objects, no. Corrective shape keys, yes, this is definitely something we need. Turnaround camera, this is marvelous because it allows you to create a camera and then just click animate and then select a target and it will automatically create a turnaround for you automatically. It's awesome. Here we go, camera rigs. This is what I was talking about earlier. Whenever you need to create a camera with more controls like pull targets, specific targets, look at start constraints, you need this activated, and then therefore Shift A, add camera rigs. Dependency graph debug, no. Edit operation source, no. Icon viewer, no. Is key, no. 3D code, if it works with 3D code, you will sure want to activate that. Let's see. Imported for camera animation, yes. This will allow you to interchange, I think it's Chan data with Nuke. You can work exporting things from Blender to Nuke. You want that. Export point cache, sorry. Yes, this is for VDB volumes. We already explained this in another video. Oh, here we go. Import export, Nuke animation format. So you want that if you work with Nuke, of course. Interface, 3D viewport pie menus. This is one of the most principal things you can ever activate here in Blender. The pie menus. Activate anything that says pie because it will allow you to work faster. Copy attributes menus. This is like an artery. If you don't have this add-on activated, you cannot really harvest the power when you're working with many meshes here in Blender. So just activate that. Dynamic brush menus. I don't remember what it is for. Dynamic context menu. I also don't remember what it is for. I think these are new. Anyways, if you do not know what they do, just click here on documentation and it will take you here so you can know what you're doing. Alright, so there they are. Dynamic context menu. 3D view header. Cursor menu. Dynamic sky. This was used on the previous versions. Really good. Sun position, they work both together. Lighting, tree lighting. This will allow you to automatically create a tree light to illuminate your subject. Material library. This will, from Legacy, bring some materials like grass, liquid, but they are very basic. Material utilities for the same reason. 3D plane toolbox, auto mirror. This is good. I don't often use it. I prefer to use the mirror modifier instead. Big surfaces is good. Make sure to check out a tutorial about this. And edit mesh tools. Yes, this definitely needs to be turned on. Mesh tools. Activate that. This is an awesome plugin. You need to check this one out. Well, the bool tool also is a good tool. Boolean. The carver. Oh my goodness, this is like if you're into hard ops, into hard surface modeling, you want this activated. So fracture, link library, object color rules, scatter objects. This is awesome. I did a very short tutorial about this as well. Copy render settings, no way. Freestyle SGV exporter. Oh, this one is a good function because if you have an object and you want to export it as an SGV, you can do that after it's rendered. It's just amazing. I mean, if you want that, if you're into vector animation and you need a 3D object rendered in vectors, this is the way to go. Activate that. Sequencer, power sequencer. Okay, yes, you do want to activate this if you're working with the video editor. Blender ID authentication. Yes, this is for the Blender Cloud. If you have a subscription with the Blender Cloud, you can save your settings in the cloud and open any machine at any time install a brand new Blender Vanilla, and then with this activated, it will pick up your settings from whenever you activate that locally or remotely. That's awesome. I was explained once by one of the developers that system demo mode was so you can use certain controls here in Blender to automatically load at the press of a button different scenes whenever you're showcasing Blender. Isn't that amazing? Instead of going file, open, and searching for the actual file, if you activate this, you can actually load them in a list, I think it is, and then you can just press one button and it will automatically load one after another. That's what demo mode is. And manage UI translations, no. System property chart, I don't know what that does. System information, no. UV magic, yes, you do want this because sometimes it is necessary when you edit UVs to work with the tools that they have there. And video tools, refined tracking solution, yes, you do want this because if you're tracking somewhere, if you're tracking things in Blender, you may as well activate it. I will not activate it for this time. Okay, so that finishes with the add-ons. Next, I'm going to use a theme. I'm going to select install, and now I'm going to walk to my disk. And by the way, you can add stuff here so you can access it directly. So in my case, I'm going to manually go to C, users for the first time, my user machine, my desktop, and from there on I can, with this direction selected, I can just add it to the bookmarks right here. It's perfect. You can add your HDRI background images here as well, and also your image folders where you get your images from. That's how I use this. So, okay, desktop. And from my desktop, I think it's 283. And from there on, I'm going to select my XSIMOD theme 282. And then I'm going to say install theme. And right now, everything looks very crappy regarding text. I don't want that. So where do we correct that? We come here to the interface and then text rendering, open up that, uncheck anti-aliasing. And in the interface font, if you switch this, you're probably not going to get some UI translations well. They're going to be corrupt. But in my case, I don't do that often. So what I want to do is to navigate all the way to the C drive and then going to Windows and then select fonts, go for Verdana. Also, you can switch your views right here. If you switch to thumbnails while you're on the font views or any image folder, you're going to see your thumbnails are being created. The next time it opens, it will show you. Oh, here we go. See? So I think it's Verdana, like so. Verdana true type font. Accept. Let's see if it picks. Yes, it picked it up. You don't notice much difference, but it's there. And I also like to switch to the monospace font, which is required for scripting. If you click here, this is the monotype thing. This is the scripting that you get. All right, so everything you do scripting, regarding scripting, you're going to get it with that kind of letter. So here you can walk through the different workspaces, looking much decent. And many people ask me why I use a light screen interface, GUI interface. Guys, for the 1000th time, I will say this one more time though. It's for recording purposes. When you compress white, it compresses better than dark values, than dark colors. This is basic, you must know this. So that's why I work with my user interface in this color. So you can have contrast and the gray value. It's easy to compress on video. It doesn't, damage it that much. If you go to white, it will get damaged because of the high contrast. If you go dark, it will damage it a lot because of the contrast. But if you stay on the gray area, just like this one, then you can read and it can be compressed and it will not be damaged. It will not have artifact damages. So there we have it. So let's delete this. Press 0 locate your camera here, and the next thing I want to do is to remove or just hide this little guy. So I'm going to select here, and now I'm going to uncheck the 3D cursor. All right, it's fantastic. And just one more thing is switch to tools, active tool, no. Shift A, let's see, cube. This is how it's supposed to be. Whenever you press N, this is the very first thing you need to see. Let's just leave it like that. And now delete the cube. And finally, we're going to go File, Default, Save Startup File. Okay? Yes, okay. Now close this. Don't save that. And let's launch Blender Vanilla 282 with our settings. So now we have a user preference which will allow us to work with all of this. Let's continue further refinements. Let's switch this off. And one thing I want to do is Shift A, monkey. And if you come here to this little corner right here, so just stay in the middle, left click, drag it to your left, and then you're gonna get this. But just in case that you do this, you know, it will restore the view. But if you go like this, and then you go like this again, and then you go like, oh no, oh gosh, what is going on? I mean, I don't want this. I just touched this little corner, and now I don't know what's going on. The workspaces are you know, this is crap. I need to delete Blender. Blender will never be industry standard. Oh no, get me out, my psychologist, please. Guys. This is called a dynamic user interface. That means you can configure this however you will want, during the space you want, and for the settings you need. So a very easy way to fix this, because I think everyone in Blender has suffered from this, is to come right here, just pose your mouse in the middle, right click on it, and then just say join areas. And now you're gonna get an arrow to define where you want this, left or right. Okay, again, pose your mouse in the middle line, dividing your upper and lower window. Right click, join the areas. You can see the arrow there, right? The cursor arrow. Let's do that one more time. Join areas. Join areas. Yeah, but I want to join this single panel into this two panel. No, you can't. I'm sorry, but you can't. You first need to join this area so you have one-to-one panel, and now you, of course, right click, join areas. You can decide on either of them. That was marvelous. Press 0. And this is the perspective view, and it shows it's a perspective view to the infinite, well, not really the infinite, but to 5 kilometers in depth, which is good. It works. Press 0 again, you're back into the camera view, which you can continue to manipulate as I show you. Very important setting here when you're on camera, that you lock your camera to view. All right, I guess you do know that, so no problem. So let's just press N. That's a little monkey right there. And now I want you to open up a new window, press 0, and roll your mouse, shift middle mouse, and now you can switch to an interaction mode, which is this little icon right here. So your main interaction mode is right here, but your context workspace is up here. Okay, so in my case I want to switch this to the UV editor. I'm going to select my object, press tab, which will immediately change for me to the edit mode, and now I can see the UVs right here. I can press Control right mouse and start lassoing whatever I want. Press G, you can move this, you can stitch that. You can come here where it says stitching, press V. So in this case, I don't know, what can I stitch? Okay, let's stitch this. Press V and then press left click. Again, press V and left click. That means they are very far and they cannot be stitched. But if you have some closer piece to be stitched, they will get stitched. I think these are the eyes, right? Well, this is not a UV tutorial right now. What I want you to do is just to press this thing off. Otherwise, whenever you do this, you're gonna press G and then you're going to move all this, and this is very messy. What's happening? You're proportionally editing this. And if you roll your mouse, you can see the influence being higher and higher. And if you roll up, it will zoom to a lesser proportional editing dimension. Roll up, roll down, roll up, roll down while you have this on. So switch it off. We don't ever want to work like that in Blender. Okay, I guess that was it. So join areas, it's all good. Press 0, press 1, press 0 again. You have your camera perspective. I guess we're done. And now the last thing that you may do is to activate here in film transparent, because whenever you press F12, you're going to render whatever the camera is seeing, but you're going to get the black background. In our case, you can come here, because this is the image viewer. You can see it right there, that little bucket. It's the image editor. And then you can see here are the channels. This is a red channel. This is the blue channel. Of course, this guy is monochromatic at the moment, didn't have any color. But you can watch the alpha right there. It's white. Everything else is transparent. And that's exactly what we want to see whenever we select this option of color and alpha. You can also check out the passes right here. If we create passes, we can see it right there. And you can also have different slots so you can test different settings for your renders. So right now I'm going to press escape, and that window just closed itself. I'm going to move the camera just a little bit, and then I'm going to press F12, and then it got rendered on the same slot, but now I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch to slot 2, which is empty. It's ready to begin a new render. So I'm going to close this, doesn't matter. And now I'm going to make something very drastical like this. Press F12, and now you have the slot 2, the second slot, to check out your image. So you have slot 1 with the comparison and slot 2. Where are the menus to switch this automatically? You come here where it says view, and now you see here render slot, cycle next, and Alt J. So you go J, Alt J, J, Alt J. Perfect. And of course you can check your buffers and alphas and colors. And if you're rendering layers, different layers, you can also check them right here. Alright, so with that, you know what to get with the XSIMOD theme. So now let's install the goodies. Now that you know what the add-ons actually do, let's install some really useful add-ons. Ctrl-Alt-U. Now let's go for add-ons, install. And now I'm going to walk to my folder on the desktop. We already selected that as a favorite. And now let me see the list, vertical list, add-ons. And now these are my add-ons, which you will find in the same package that you just downloaded. And this is really actually not mine, but it's awesome. I mean, this wiggle bones will allow you to delay your bones in your armatures as if they were dynamically springed. You know, when you create springs, you create a delay parent, and you go through all this cumbersome setup, you know, which is necessary for you to make the simulation work. But with this one, you just activate a checkbox, and then every bone that you select or create with wiggle bones will become dynamically a spring, which is awesome. So my first one is this one, jump direct. Oh, before that, I'm sorry. If you work with a stylus, please pay attention on this one. If you work with a stylus and your stylus is not Wacom, you may have problems here in Blender, which it will not allow you to work with your stylus. So you may go with your left click right here and stare blankly, right? Nothing will happen on your screen, nothing, because your stylus has a sensibility, but will not affect your view. So in this case, what you need to do is to configure the touches by coming here into the key map. And in the key map, here on preferences, by the way, don't forget, just activate tab pie for menu as well. Activate that. Pie menu on drag, no. Extra shading pie menu items. I don't know what this is for. Oh, yes. This is good. Activate those. Okay, perfect. What I was saying, the stylus. For you to work, you need to come here to 3D view global. And in this 3D view global, you have different viewport manipulation, which is what you are after. So you have the pan view, you have the zoom view, and then you have the rotate view, these three. All right, middle mouse, shift middle mouse. This works with the mouse. But when you're working with the stylus, for some reason on 282, that's not happening. For certain specific tablets, all right? If you have a Wacom and it works, all right, just skip this part. It is not for you. But for those of you who have problems with the stylus, this is the solution. So you go here and add new. Don't forget, you're adding a new command here on 3D view global, because this is a 3D view global, okay? Like the topmost command of this view. So let's just add new, and the first thing we're going to do is to add a view. This is the command 3D rotate. Okay, that was the same thing that we saw before. You will see that this activates automatically. And then what you want to do is to press for rotate, this Alt, and then this right here has to be pressed by the stylus. Do not press it with the mouse. Press it with the stylus, okay? So I'm going to do a pause, because right now I'm going to configure my tablet to work with this. But I need to left click with the stylus. Please do not click this with the mouse. Otherwise you will have a redundancy and that will not work. You need to press a key, like click it once with your nib right here, and now you need to click it with your stylus. So I'm going to press pause to configure and create all the other views, and I will explain them later. Let's say that for some reason you do not have your stylus configured on your first monitor, which is, usually the monitor where we use our mouse, but instead it's configured on a second monitor. So what do you do? How do you configure that? Well, it's very simple. You have the options to do it with your mouse button, if you can see right here, or you can also select your pen. Your device will be immediately recognized. So your display tablet will have pen as an option. So therefore you can select the Alt and then pen for the 3D view rotate. Okay, that's good. Let's add the second parameter. Let's add the pen. So view 3D, this is actually very easy, move. And just by clicking outside the RNA program code line for Blender, will show you that parameter exists, so therefore you can assign it. And now we're going to use the shift key plus pen again. If you notice, here it says mouse, and then it says pen. So that means you can go either way. So it's treated like the mouse. Okay, it's not a tweak, it's not a text input, it's not a timer, but it works as a mouse, because you want this to work, you want your stylus to work as a mouse, so that's good. So the first thing, rotate, it's Alt plus the left click on your stylus. And now shift left click on your pen for the move. Now finally let's add the rotate, the zoom. So for that we type view 3D dot zoom. Pretty easy. And we're going to use the control. That's how it's originally created by default. Blender brings these things by default. Like I said before, if you have your Wacom tablet and it's working fine, your stylus is working fine, you need to skip this section. This section is only for the guys or the girls or the gals which have a different tablet brand than Wacom, and they are not getting picked up signals by Blender. So this is how you configure that here on the key map. So now you click here and select pen, right? Click twice, as a matter of fact, click once, click twice, and then just select pen. Okay? Awesome, so we have the three. Rotate, which is going to be Alt and left click in the stylus. Move, which is going to be Shift and left click on the stylus. And then Zoom, which is going to be Control and left click on the stylus. If you want to save that, automatically Blender saves that for you, but if you want to make sure, just click here and then just save preferences. Make sure this auto save preferences is checked. Anyway, so let's go for the add-ons. A very useful add-on which I developed, or rather the community helped me to develop, because this was very needed 3 years ago. It's this one right here where it says Space View 3D Move Origin 2.8. So select that, install the add-on. You're going to see it appear right here. And now you're going to click it. And this add-on needs to be assigned a new shortcut, okay? A new shortcut. So once you install this add-on, you need to come here to your key map. And in key map, you're going to navigate this where it says your key map, where it says 3D view, because we're going to work every time here on the viewport. So that's where we want it, on the 3D view global. That means whatever you see a screen, this is going to be active screen to manipulate the 3D object. You can close this. You don't need it anymore. Close that, and now let's create a new input shortcut. This class, I created it inside the script, so that right now we type object origin to selected. Okay, so it found it, it named it, and now we're going to press Shift, Control, and then 1. That's my combination to move the origin to wherever I have selected. That's a very useful thing to do. So let's test it out. I'm going to leave this open. I'm going to Shift A. I'm going to create a monkey, and then I'm going to press Tab, and now we see we have the menu activated. You already know where we activated this menu, from the key map thing, okay, and also from the add-ons. Every pie menu was activated, so now we get pie. Everywhere we want to work with immediately, we can press Tab, and now we have access to all of these modes, but instead in a pie menu. So right now I'm going to float to edit mode, and I get this thing to unselect, because this is selected. To unselect every point, just press Alt A, and now you have everything unselected. If you want to select everything behind this, you need to do this. Press this one, which is the ghosting method or transparent method, and now you can select your back call nulls or back call vertices. Okay, Alt A, unselect everything. Click here, and you can also press Alt Z, which will immediately toggle this mode. Alt Z from the last visualization mode toggle. And now let's press Alt Z, and now let's say I want to move the origin, which is this point right here. I want to move it all the way over here. Now you're gonna see how this works. I'm going to press Control, right mouse click, and then I'm going to lasso select all of this. And now I'm going to press Control Shift 1, and my origin should move up here, but it didn't. So we have Control U, and you have a little instruction here for how to use it. It says that if you press the spacebar, you can search for this function, origin move to select. So let's just do that. Let's just grab this, and then press the spacebar, and then type origin move to selected. And from there on, you see automatically the origin point jumped from being in the middle of the mesh to the average between these vertices. Let's try that again. I'm going to select all these points right here. I'm sorry, Alt A to unselect everything. Control right click on your mouse, and now spacebar. Again, the last command was this, so you can select it again. Origin move to selected, and it will jump right there. What what do you get with that? If you rotate it, now that's going to be the transformation point. That's good. That's what we want. And then press Alt Z to clear the transparency thing right here. So let's find out how to solve that problem. So it does work. So let's just Shift Control 1. Okay, let's leave it there so we know it's working. But now we're going to tell Blender search for the conflicted shortcut. You can also try key binding. Let's try that. Control, Shift, and then 1. And now we see. So we have pose, we have object mode. This is select mode. Control Shift 1. No, we don't want that. Remove. Actually, just switch it off. That way you don't have to remove it, and then you can press this little arrow so it will be restored. So let's just unselect that. That was causing the conflict. So you can come here to the key binding for the actual command. You can write the actual command and then you will find it on your. So now here is our origin move to selected, and therefore Shift Control 1 will work this time. Surely enough. I'm gonna come here. Plus a select Control Shift 1, and of course it's there. Tab, object mode, R for rotate, or you can select your tool right there and then you can manipulate it. Awesome. Alt Z to clear the transparency. Alt A to unselect everything. I'm going to leave that. Now the second add-on I developed for you to use, it's a very important one. So let's import XSIMOD themes add-ons. And the one that you're going to be using is this one, which is called Direct Jump Selection. Import. Whoops. I was on key map. I'm sorry. I need to go to the add-ons. Now we're talking. Install Direct Jump Selection. Install the add-on, and you can see it right here. What does it do? You can open this, enter edit mode, and cycle selection to type the face, vertex, or edge. Okay, so let's enable that, and now let's assign a key map. And with that key map, what you're going to do is to come again here on the 3D view global, because this is happening on the global context of the application. It's not happening on the texture paint. No, it's happening on the global. So we're going to add a new custom shortcut for that. And then we're going to type, this is again a class I already developed inside that Pi add-on. So that means that if you have an idea, you start developing partially with Python or partially in design, I don't know, however you would like to code in code. Okay, Visual Studio works as well. There is an add-on for that. You can develop add-ons for Blender using Visual Studio. And you start off the first rough design, or you can check other people's code, implement it into your functions, and then you can ask for the community help. And that's how we work. Please get it together, because that's the intent of an open source community. That's the intent, that you can be helped, or you can help other people using the same software, so you can enhance it, open it up, create better things, better tools, close it again, and then distribute it. That's a big deal about open source, specifically talking about Blender. So I developed a class with the help of the community, which is called Object Edit Face Select. So my context, as you can see, for object programming, is this object. That's the context. And now I'm going to call my class, which is the Edit Face Select. And now that I have all that selected, I'm going to simply press the number 4. Press the number 4 right there. Okay. So what that means is that whenever you are selecting your mesh, you need to press Tab to enter into edit mode. That's like an extra 2 clicks just to get here. So from now on, after you activate my add-on, the one that the community helped me, big thanks to all the developers and all the people who really take their time into Blender Stack Exchange and help out with the code. So big shout out to that community as well. So you select your monkey, and now you press 4, and then you should immediately enter into edit mode. But right now we have another conflict, but now you know how to solve those kind of conflicts. You come here, and then you switch from name to key binding, and now you press number 4. And let's find out where that is conflicting. So that's where we're having the problems. So you can see hide collection. If you press number 4, it will hide the collection number 4. So this hide collection thing is a very harmful way to work, because you will accidentally, most of the time, click on the numbers at the top of your keyboard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 0, and then your collections will hide, and then you will not know how to unhide them. You can get used to this kind of workflow, but I would really recommend that if you're starting right now, you uncheck those. So right now, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to uncheck this so that the shortcut becomes free and available again for the next available command, which is mine, or rather ours, right here. Object edit face select. Click it. Let's Alt-A unselect everything. I'm going to click it, and now I'm going to press 4, and then automatically I am already in edit mode. This is very, very useful because now you can toggle your 1 filter vertex, 2 edge selection, 3 face selection toggles from the top of your keyboard. All right, let me go in a practical example. I'm going to select this torus, right? So that's my torus. Now I want to go click select, tab, edit mode, Alt A, unselect everything. No. Guys, that's just off. Too much clicking around. So it's very easy. Shift A, torus, 4, and then you jump directly here. Okay? That's what you want, that's what you need. Alt A, and now press 2 on your numeric keyboard at the top of your keyboard, and now you're in edit edge selection filter right there. To loop select, you press Alt, and then you post your mouse horizontally, and then you loop select. If you want it vertically, Alt, post your mouse right here, and then you select this. If you want to select the shortest path between this guy and this guy over here, just press Control, and then it will automatically select the shortest path between one another. And now I'm going to press 3. I'm going to enter into face selection mode, and I'm going to select this face, and then I'm going to press G, and then I'm going to move it. And now it's moving accordingly because you did perfectly when we switched from global to local, which is most of the biggest frustration new users in Blender have. They come here and they have this option into global, and once they select the face, they start to move it. Let's say I'm going to select the move tool, and then they see this, and then they go, oh, okay, oh no, it's vertical, oh my gosh, and then oh Blender, I need to come on guys, come on, really? Control Z, 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 Control Z. Wasn't that boring? Yes, it was. But now Blender in 283 has a new function to unroll the history. Watch this. Undo history. Wow, you can go back any time, any part in time you need to go back to. So for example, I went back to move, edit, undo history, and then you can undo the history. Isn't that magnificent? Anyways, let's switch from global to local, and now just press G and start to move this thing, and it will move accordingly. But hey, Mr. Schiller, it still moves weirdly. Okay, so let's switch from local to normal, and now you can have your axis restraint to that local coordinates. Okay, so whatever you do, I just press G because it's an open and freely move and transform tool, and that's why I do it. If you press R, depending on your view, R will translate left to right, so therefore it will rotate. So if you're on top view and then you press R, obviously it's going to transform sideways from the frontal view. Okay, I think you get the idea. Depending on your viewport view, R works, directly in front. What else? Scaling. Yeah, sure. Well, I'm not going to show you how to edit objects. I just wanted to quickly walk you through this so you can know where to touch, where to look, what to find. All right, different modes. Yeah, so you have weight, paint, and everything else. So again, I'm going to, for the last time, let's relaunch Blender. And now it's finally relaunched.
Alright, thank you very much for reaching up to this point in the video. Now the last thing we need to do is to complete our settings where our render window is. Because whenever you press F12, you'll get this floating window, and most of the time it gets in the way. But there's a configuration that you can do so that it will render inside one of the specific windows you have for the image editor. So you can see right here, the image editor right now it's set in this place. I can pin it so that way it will only activate whenever it's called to work. So you come here to interface, and then down here where it says temporary windows, you can see it. Let me open up this a little bit. So right here in this temporary windows options, you have the render in new window, or you can switch that to image editor, which is what we're going to choose. And once you get that, you can close this. It will save your preferences. No problem. Now press F12, and every time you do, it will render automatically, uniquely into this window. Isn't that marvelous? Also, check your size, your render size right here.
And we are supposed to have our shortcuts already active, so let's try that. Monkey, press S to scale, press 4, yes sir, directly, immediately you jump into edit mode to select any face. So I just go 4 and then press 1 and I'm on vertex, Alt A, object mode again. I just press 4 and then 3 and then I'm on face selection mode. It's perfect. Alt Z 1, Control drag with the right mouse, Control Shift 1, Tab, object mode, rotate tool, Alt Z, roll. Yeah, I'm speaking all of that because this is like my, how can we say it, slow paced commands. Okay, once you get into the first 2 or 3 weeks in Blender, you're gonna really type like if you were blogging. That kind of speed is the one that you need here to, access the commands to do stuff. This has been Pierre Schiller, and this has been Schiller Tips, where we demystify 3D.